Hello, I'm Raglin. This is Not Your Family, Not Your Friend, Book Reviews. Book reviews without a conflict of interest. I don't get paid for these reviews. I don't swap these reviews with other authors. I'm not your family, I'm not your friend, so you can't guilt me into giving you good reviews. These reviews are honest. I hope they're constructive, but keep in mind they're just one person's opinion. Today, it's 3 short stories written by Michael Hammond. We'll begin with King Eddie. When the employer demands deep cuts in the employees' salaries and benefits, or he'll close the factory, Eddie Doust, just a few years away from getting pensioned off from a job he hates, becomes the reluctant union president and leader of a strike. The second brief synopsis is for a story called A Marigold Sky. On the best day of Mario Fortunato's life, he's driving behind an armored truck when the back doors swing open and cash begins falling out. He manages to stop, scoop up 2 bags of cash, and get away. But the best day of Mario's life turns out actually to be the worst, as Mario's anxiety about his windfall becomes a reality. The third story is called The Day the Music Died. Grace Hope is a young woman who finds solace from her abusive father in the songs of pop idol Chad Carter Stefano. When Chad dies of an overdose, she has a dream of him that has unforeseen consequences. Well, author Michael Hammond has taken on a demanding form of fiction. Because of the nature of a short story, it's short. The story needs to be launched and developed immediately. To do this, literally, every word has to be carefully considered and in most cases do double duty. Develop character and advance the plot. All 3 of Hammond's stories start in the middle of the action, which is good and absolutely necessary. The stories themselves have potential, but the author's writing is not up to the challenge. The best by far is King Eddie, the only plot that doesn't stretch this reader's suspension of disbelief beyond the breaking point. The story is realistic and well researched. The characters are better developed than in other stories, and the writing is more sophisticated. Hammond tends to tell his stories instead of showing them. An example would be that he tells us Eddie is utterly exhausted with life at the mill. Wouldn't it be better to show us through action and dialogue how he is utterly exhausted? And that would also develop character and advance the plot. In fact, he uses very little dialogue in any of these stories. The Day the Music Died gets off on the wrong track from the first sentence. Hammond writes, "I was a nobody for my entire life up until that fateful day when the music died. I blame Chad Carter Stefano. He ruined my life." Well, one would expect the protagonist had a life to lose, but as this story progresses, it's apparently by this cliched tale of unrelenting hard luck, there was no life to ruin. There's also no room for redundancies in short stories. In all of these tales, Hammond frequently says the same thing, though using different words. We're told Grace can't take one more slap in the face from her father. Then we're told he whacks her around. Is slapping different than whacking? The author writes that Grace's father is a closet drunk, and yet no one will come to Grace's assistance. The term closet means nobody knows your true nature. Why would people help Grace if no one knew her father was an abusive drunk? Well, what is really indicative of Hammond's status as a writer is the way he handles this sentence. Every generation has a day when the music dies. Hendrix, Morrison, Cobain, and Elvis. Okay, Morrison and Hendrix were of the same generation. They died 10 months apart. Hendrix on September 18, 1970, and Morrison on July 3, 1971. These are my musical heroes, and I know that. The phrase, "the music died," refers to the plane crash in 1959 that killed Ritchie Valens, J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson, and Buddy Holly, and was immortalized by Don McLean's song, American Pie. The phrase has nothing to do with the artist the author mentions. He could have at least attributed the quote to the original source. This is just sloppy research. And or more likely no research at all, which is doubly disturbing since the author says he used to be a freelance journalist. The opening of Marigold Sky is incomprehensible. Why would someone who's going to rob Mario warn him? Further into the storyline, it gets more fantastic. The back doors of an armored truck fly open on a highway, and money flies out, allowing Mario to stop, fill 2 shopping bags with cash before getting back in his car and driving home. Add clumsy writing, including redundancies about Mario's employment situation, problems with his marriage, and personal finances, and you have a story that should have never been published, even self-published. If these books were on Amazon, here's how I'd evaluate them. The writing's poor, there's no violence, no sex, they're told in the third person from one point of view. The following ratings would appear for King Eddie, 3 stars, Marigold Sky, 1 star, The Day the Music Died, 1 star. I received these books from Smashwords as part of my commitment to review the work of new self-published authors. The text version of this review is posted on Goodreads, Library Thing, Barnes & Noble, Booklikes, and Smashwords. Sites where you can win or download free books are listed below. I'd like to thank Michael Hammond for his hard work and commitment to these worthwhile endeavors. Keep writing. Remember what Nietzsche said, art is a proper task in life.